Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of MGR Unplugged. We are loaded again today. David likes that. We're always loaded.
Yeah, I always make fun of him every week. He's like, guys, we have so much to talk about.
We do have a lot to talk about.
The busiest schedule.
I get all excited before the podcast with all the notes and everything, and I've been taking notes all week, and then I just cannot wait until...
I told him, I said, 1 week you need to come out and just say, guys, we don't have anything to talk about this week. There's nothing going on.
When they don't listen to a podcast or they don't see one, that means that we didn't have anything to say. So, no, we do have a lot of things. Obviously, a lot of things are happening in little time. I mean, 1 week now, it looks like a month, like a year. I mean, it's just so much stuff going on that it's actually hard to determine what to do or what to include, what not to include, and kind of keep focus on certain topics. So with that said, we're going to get started right away. So I'm going to roll the music first. Thank you.
None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
All right, welcome back. David, how are you today?
Great.
Better than last week?
Yeah.
What would you say is the difference between last week and this week as far as how you feel?
Oh, I'm richer this week because I made some good trades.
You did? What do you do?
Well, I think I actually, this should start becoming an investment advice podcast because...
Well, let's just put a disclaimer.
But with the disclaimer... This is an investment advice podcast with a disclaimer of don't listen to me. I'm not an investment advisor.
Past performance does not imply future results, and specifically results for David do not imply.
I was telling people that they should short the market back in February when we were at all-time highs. Would have made a lot of money.
Yeah, of course.
And then about a month ago on this podcast, I also talked about how the only thing I was buying right now was oil tankers.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people paid attention to what happened with oil this week, but I made a lot of money on my oil tanker bets. That's for sure.
Oil was free this week. They actually were paying you to store it.
They'll pay you. They'll pay you.
Well, it's coming back a little bit. It's up to...
it's back. I can explain kind of what happened. It's
right,
not
go
that
ahead, please.
Oil was literally worthless. But
right.
Yes, my oil tankers made a lot of money this week, and they will continue to make a lot of money for me. So
we need storage. If you have any storage space to store oil, the government will probably pay you for it.
Empty out your pool.
Yeah.
Put in oil. There you go.
I think our pool looks like oil anyways. It's such a chore to clean it all the time. Anyways, go ahead.
Basically, no. Oil did not go negative or to zero. Oil futures went negative and to zero.
What does futures mean? It means the
futures is just basically you're betting on the future price of oil.
Right.
But the problem was that the May contracts, for those who don't know how options work, basically you have contracts and they have expiration dates, and then at the expiration dates basically those contracts settle, and then you have the obligation to then basically, if you're holding those contracts,
fulfill your contract,
the contract, and is basically saying, so you have like a hedge fund that now all of a sudden has to store and transport 1 million barrels of oil. And that's why it went to zero and then even negative because, you have these funds who basically says, I need to get this off my books. Mm-hmm. I can't store and transport oil. And so that's basically what happened. And then obviously, that happened a few days ago. Oil's already bounced back to over $10 a barrel. But I think oil is going to be less than 20 a barrel for a long time.
It will. I mean, there's so much oversupply. I mean,
it's a combination of Russia and Saudi Arabia and even Mexico and others. Like, I can't believe even Mexico
everybody's producing.
They don't want to stop. They don't want to cut production. And then you add that on top of the fact that roughly 20 to 30% of the global oil demand has been wiped out. Airlines, cruise ships, cars,
automotive,
all
everything.
That stuff.
Nobody's moving anywhere.
That makes up. I was looking there. Someone had a pie chart of all the oil, and that roughly 30% was basically automotive, cruise ships, and airlines.
Right.
And all that's gone. And so if you have a 30% drop in demand while a doubling of supply, that's basically why the prices dropped. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason that was good for tankers is because these tankers, if you don't know, obviously, as you can imagine, transporting and storing oil is not basic. Okay, you can't just put it in your closet and call it a day. There's tons of regulations around the safety, environmental aspects. So you need specific ships that can handle oil.
Right.
You need specific places to store it, all those things. And so basically, even though the price of oil is down, it's the metaphor I kind of gave that I thought was illustrative was, imagine if you're shipping something with FedEx and then all of a sudden the place that FedEx is giving it to can't take the package because all these oil facilities are full, storage facilities. And now you're just saying, well, I don't know what to do with that package, so I'm just going to pay FedEx every day to keep it in the truck.
Or to keep flying around, or in the ocean or whatever.
Just keep it there for now. Right. And so it's like, imagine you're paying FedEx every day. Well, that's basically what these companies are paying the oil tankers.
And remember too that the oil, when it's transported, it doesn't go straight to gas stations. It needs to be going to refineries and everything else.
Oil.
Right, it's crude oil. So it needs to go to refineries and everything else, and then it's spread into the different uses of oil, from gas to grease to lubricants and all that stuff.
So anyways, my prediction was a month ago, I don't think Russia and Saudi Arabia are going to let up. I was right. And I made some good money.
They did a little bit, but it's just not enough.
No, not enough. I mean,
they did some kind of agreement. I think it was about a week ago. But I mean, that would have been effective maybe in normal times, but not now.
Right, and again, that coupled with the drop in demand.
Exactly.
There you go.
So
there's your oil update for this week.
Yeah, exactly. In the meantime, nobody's driving, so who cares? Prices are going to go like, I don't know how much is in Arizona. I think we're back to 180 or something per gallon, which is pretty cheap.
Problem with oil versus gasoline prices is it takes a while.
Oh yeah, it's not
oil, the oil that's dug up in the ground today won't be used for months.
Right.
Longer.
The pump gas that we're paying today is the one that was basically set up months ago. What are you doing? You're out of cold brew. All right. So economy-wise, we this morning they released the numbers of unemployment stuff. We added 4.4 million to the existing unemployment numbers. So now we are up to 26 million, which basically they say that is we wiped off all the jobs created since the Great Recession. So I mean, obviously the market is in bad shape as far as jobs, and we know that. I mean, everybody knows of people that are furloughed or unemployed or whatever. It's just, but the interesting part is that in some cases, even with the economic stimulus that we have now from the government, with the paycheck protection program and the unemployment stimulus with the extra payment and all that stuff, there are situations where some workers are actually choosing not to return to work.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
because the stimulus is better than actually going to work.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. And like in our case, we hire a lot of contractors, and I've seen, not specifically us, but I've seen other people who are contractors too, where a lot of times we have, especially because we're an agency, we'll have projects and jobs where maybe we don't necessarily have enough work to hire someone full time, but we can give them 20 hours a week of work. And, I saw people were saying, I was offering someone 20 hours a week of work, and they turned it down because they said no, because then I won't get my unemployment. It's like, okay, well, that's kind of perverse incentives then.
Right. And that's one of the things that happens. And this is still when you have like a decent, because they say, well, if I'm going to get unemployment or extra benefits on unemployment for like 2 months, 3 months, who knows, however they may extend it, then they may say, and I can stay home and do nothing, take care of my kids and all that stuff. Because keep in mind, kids are also at home now. I mean, they're home everywhere, and now school is going to be over pretty much everywhere, so there will be even longer time home. So sometimes it just, but especially for the entry-level jobs, like sometimes restaurants and fast food places and all that stuff that are starting to plan on reopening, and they say, hey, we may start reopening mid-May for certain customers and these conditions and all that stuff, and they're calling back their customers. Not only that, they're supposed to, because when you have the PPP or the Paycheck Protection Plan, that's with the condition that you're going to rehire or keep your employees. But when you hire them and those guys are making minimum wage, whatever it is that you're paying them, even if it's above government minimum wage and it's, the state minimum wage, like 15 an hour, they say, well, if I'm going to make this money, now I'm making basically 75% or 80% of my income if I were working, but I'm staying home, I don't have to work, and I'm getting this money. So that's something that is something to consider, because when you make these stimulus packages, sometimes they actually demotivate people or unmotivate people to get back to work right away. It's not like people are saying, especially the majority of the population, saying, okay, I'm going to get back to, you're an executive that are just being like, furlough for a couple of months or something. You could work from home, do something, um, and then get back to officially to work. But if you are an employee, like just any type of blue collar work, and they just start putting your numbers and say, well, you know what, if I'm gonna have to go back to work and I have to take care of my kids and send them somewhere which I can't, or pay somebody which I can't, and then I'm just gonna get this free money. So it's really it's kind of backfiring a little bit and defeats the purpose of stimulating the economy when you don't have that.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to solve, though. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Obviously, you can't say, on the one hand, it can't be that, oh, we have to give all this stimulus to help people, but then at the same time, people are saying, oh, well, now I'm not going to work because I'm getting this stimulus.
At what point do you decide how large to make the stimulus so it's stimulating enough to compensate for your lack of work, but at the same time not too much, so you decide, oh no, I'm not going to go to work. So it's tough, and you obviously you can't make one plan that fits all. And at the end of the day, I think it comes down to people saying, hey, you know what, I'm supposed to be working, I'm going to give up my unemployment, and maybe I can have that money that somebody else will get that really needs it, and then I still have a job that is requesting me to get back after all this storm, and then I just go back. So, but I don't know, it's one of those things that you start thinking, and it makes you kind of realize that it's not so easy to come up with these packages. On the speaking of the stimulus, the government, the Senate just passed the second round, the second wave or phase of the PPC, Paycheck Protection Program.
The PPP.
I keep saying PPC. I'm so used to pay-per-click campaigns. PPP, Payment Protection Plan or Program, for small businesses to basically, as the name indicates, is just to keep employees employed during this time. So the program basically, when you apply and you qualify and you're approved, it allows you to keep your employees. They basically compensate you for 2.5 months of your employee payroll. So the first phase was $350 billion, and it was expired pretty much in a week. I was talking to Chase, to our rep at Chase Bank, and he says we received 60,000 applications within the first 5 minutes of going live. That was back in April 3rd or 4th. And we all probably have read enough stories of these programs going to companies that have like multi-million-dollar revenues and payroll numbers and restaurant chains and hotel chains. And now they are kind of reeling back a little bit. And the second phase, they put in much more, or they revised the program to make sure that companies that are specifically public companies are not going to be beneficiaries of this. If they have access to public market money, like investors and all that stuff, they say you are not going to qualify. So you need to be really what is called a small business, not a big business that you compartmentalize into little teeny smallers and then you get all this money. So anyways, that is supposed to be approved by the House, hopefully today or tomorrow. And then it opens up another $460 billion, even though not everything is the PPP plan. Some of it is for hospitals and this, but it's roughly another 325 for the paycheck protection plan. So we'll see how that goes. Which brings me to this printing money thing. I don't know where this money is coming from, to be honest. I mean, are we just not worried about that anymore?
Definitely not worried about inflation.
Yeah.
Have you seen the real estimated inflation numbers?
No.
Because inflation is very hard to track, and then even the government itself does a very poor job, I think intentionally, of tracking inflation because they don't want to tell you when inflation is actually much higher than it is. But I've seen numbers that show, because how the government tracks inflation is they do what's called this basket of goods, and so they have like I forget how many things are in that basket, but it's like hundreds of different things. And then they basically look at the price of these and how they change over time. And so I haven't seen official government numbers, but I've seen other analysts who do their own kind of basket of goods research. And I've seen numbers north of 20% inflation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. It's like I don't understand some things. I mean, as much as we try to always kind of rationalize Wall Street or the government from Main Street, and I think there's now such a big disconnect between the two, that everything that we've learned over the years about how
I think that's an understatement.
microeconomy works is like now out the window. It's like now, we're talking about governments manipulating their currency, or like we're talking about China printing money, doing this. Their currency is worth nothing because they keep doing whatever they want. Well, I mean, we obviously have the dollar, which is the number one currency in the world. So we are in a stronger position than many other countries. You talk about the euro, that you say that, I mean, your opinion, you think it's going to disintegrate. I don't think it's going to happen because they will not let that happen. But
the euro or the EU?
The EU and the euro zone, basically, which they are connected. The EU, I mean, the EU has been around forever. It's gone through many crises. So
It's not been around forever. It's been around for 20 years.
No, but before that, you had the European Community, which basically was before that. I mean, the EU started with 6 countries, and then now it's exploded to all kinds of countries, but European countries. But aside from that, I think we're basically saying we need to fix this no matter what, and then we'll deal with the consequences later.
Yeah, and I'm not.
And I think the consequences could be just as bad as the Band-Aid that we're putting now.
Yeah, I mean, this gets into much deeper conversations
I know.
about
Let's keep
monetary policy.
Let's keep it
Because I could go on a whole rant, but the disconnect between Wall Street and Main Street, yeah, I think that's.
But I was more talking about the stock market too.
That's what I mean.
Right.
Well, I mean, yeah, like, again, I don't know how deep, like, like the idea that the stock market is the economy, and people keep referring to that, and even, it doesn't help when our president refers to it as that. And it's like, the stock market is not the economy. The S&P 500 is not the economy. The S&P 500 is the 500 more successful companies in the United States, but it's not the economy. And I think people are finally waking up to that, as far as on Main Street goes. Because the markets really have not dropped that much. It's like you talk about the disconnect. The markets are acting like, okay, things aren't that great, but we're okay. We're in okay shape. There's nothing really that bad. Meanwhile, in real life, you have 26 million unemployed, people having massive anxiety, don't know what's going to happen, massive uncertainty. People are scared to death right now. They don't know what's going to happen. And so in the Main Street index, not that there is one, it's like it's totally crashed, but the Wall Street index, it's still up. It's still, or not really crashed.
Yeah,
it's pretty
because
flat.
I think investors, which is the Wall Street part, are looking at one day at a time, and every little hiccup or in the news causes the market to drop 2 or 3%, and every little spike of good news that we have causes the market to come back up another 2 or 3%. So, and that's basically Wall Street. It's like, if me, investor, I'm just going to say, hey, there's a possibility that this vaccine is going to be ready in a week, and this lab tested something, this is going to go over, everybody invest, like they don't want to miss the train. And then the day after is like, oil futures are down, oh my God, the sky is falling, everything is down. Like there's no long-term view. It's like everybody's afraid of, it's like fear of missing out.
You talk about uncertainty. The crazy thing, I was telling this to someone the other day, the crazy thing with oil is that if this happened, what happened this week with oil, if this happened in isolation, like say this happened 2 years ago, okay, in isolation of any virus, any crisis, that would be the number one story in the world.
Oh, yeah.
It would be the biggest topic. People would be saying, oh my God, there's going to be massive economic repercussions of this happening. And now that is happening at the same time that we have the biggest pandemic in 100 years. We have possibly the biggest crisis in 100 years. I mean, the fact that both of those are happening at the same time is absurd. And that's why I think there's so much uncertainty. I don't think anybody, not the president, not Fauci, not anybody, or any expert, any analyst knows what the fuck is going to happen within the next 6 months.
No,
Nobody.
They don't. They are learning as they go. And on top of that, as we said many times, we have election year here in the U.S., which is basically 6 months from now. Any other election year, by now, we will have campaign information or campaign
it'd be
news
dominating
everywhere.
the narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
Now
It'll be,
no one's
now
really
it's like
talking about
nothing.
it. It's very little.
We know that there's going to be elections November. I don't even know how we will be able to vote. That's still up in the air or whatever. But it's true that, and that's another topic that I had. And it's like every government. That this is not just in the U.S. But when you look at what other governments are doing, whether it's European governments from France, Spain, Italy, the UK, Germany, every major country, Italy, obviously, and then even Southeast Asian countries, South Korea, Singapore now is basically having a little bit of a flare up again. It's like, I think everybody knows that this is not a matter of 2 weeks or another 2 weeks or another 2 weeks, but they keep expanding these confinements and staying home or shelter in place, whatever good name, euphemism you want to use for basically quarantine. And they keep saying, oh, we're going to expand it 2 weeks. Oh, we're going to spend another 2 weeks. Oh, we're going to have this phase out or 3 phases, like 2 weeks, and this happens, and then these 2 weeks. By the time this is done, basically, it's going to be months. And I think now we're starting to realize that I think governments are afraid to tell people, hey, we're going to have to be confined for 3-4 months before we even know what the heck is going on here. Because with the lack of a vaccine or anything that is a true solution, we're basically hoping that, A, we don't have too much spread of the disease, so we don't overwhelm the healthcare system. Secondly, the people that are sick, we have the maximum number of recoveries, and then fewer people die. And third, at some point, we'll develop some kind of herd immunity by nature.
Yeah, but the scary thing about the herd immunity is that we still don't know anything about the long-term repercussions of the virus.
Right.
There's already, I saw signs that even people who were asymptomatic, like they weren't sick, they weren't coughing up a storm, they weren't having respiratory issues, they were asymptomatic, and they were having very serious damage in their lungs, and they were doing x-rays of the lungs, and doctors were saying, I don't know if this is going to be, like, this may be permanent damage to the lungs. And these are people who are asymptomatic, that they didn't even have issues, and they had permanent scarring in their lungs. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we don't know what the long-term repercussions are. And so as much as, this is why it's not easy. Like, this is why, it's like, what would I do if I have to be in charge and decide? I mean, I don't know, honestly. That's a very tough thing. Well, obviously, you need to reopen the economy as fast as possible because the damage is just getting out of control. But at the same time, we still just do not know enough about the virus to be confident in the herd immunity.
Right. And that's the point that I think all the governments are realizing, that we've been
The point is, there's no right answer. That anything you do is really a calculation.
It's a calculated risk.
Yes.
And again, no government knows what's going to happen. They just need to prevent it and have a plan A, B, C, D if possible. But they also realize that we cannot keep the economies down or shut down for more than 2 months, basically, which is the time that we've been now, in some countries even longer, because it's just not feasible. Then you run into other problems with people just not being able to leave, So people are already revolting in certain places, saying, I'd rather just go through the virus, get well, and then move on, than be in my house with no job, no income, no nothing, for months, because it's just not, mentally, it's just not feasible. So, and I think all the governments are coming with their own plans in Europe and in the US, saying, okay, we're going to have to start just kind of, we can only contain, it's like having your kids at home. At some point, you just need to let them out and say, okay, play in the yard, So, and that's probably the reason why a government will never say, oh, we're going to have to stay home for 3 months. No, they tell you, 2 weeks, and then they come back, oh, we're going to extend the confinement to another 2 weeks. And every country has been doing that. France did it. They extended until May 11th, I think. Spain just did it again. Italy's been doing it. UK as well. Here in the US, Trump just announced last week that we're going to start the deconfinement phases starting on May 1st, up to the governors of each state. If they meet certain criteria, they can start phase 1 and then phase 2 2 weeks later and so forth. So everybody's doing that, but the bottom line is that we don't know how it's going to work. And even yesterday, you were talking Fauci. He said don't think that this means that we're over coronavirus or COVID-19. It's going to come back. It's basically going to continue in the fall, in the winter, and then we may have COVID-20, COVID-21, 23. We're going to have to get used to live with some kind of coronavirus, which is the generic name, or respiratory, which is the COVID, SARS, whatever, for a long time. This is going to be part of our lives, and we're going to have to change how we react to these things. Now, what we've learned now is how to maybe control it or be more ready. This has been like basically a trial by fire, but it's not going to go away. And people that are thinking that, oh, this is like and I myself included. I mean, if you go back to a podcast that we did maybe 2-3 months ago, I was saying, oh no, this is going to be fine and the recovery is going to be fast. The more I learned, the more I realized that may not be the case. That we're going to have to adjust to having some kind of COVID with us and just be ready for it. Just saying, okay, well, this year is the COVID 20 or 21, and we're going to have health checks in place to monitor it and control it before it gets too bad, just like we do for many other things. So I think that's something that we need to realize. Some people are just not realizing that might be the crude reality. I mean, I don't want to be pessimistic because I think it's actually a good thing that we're going to be more ready, but it's going to be a different type of ready. So what's the new reality? Well, the new reality is that as far as the recovery, like, I think, let's put it this way. I think we're going to get back to as normal as possible over the next 4 to 6 weeks into the summer. And I'm talking US for now. Okay.
What do you mean normal?
Well, like things will start to open. People will start going back to work in certain conditions. They will allow some restaurants that are ready to open in certain conditions with limited people, limited occupancy. They're going to allow people to start traveling, with certain conditions. So slowly but thoroughly, we'll get back to people that are going to the office. If their offices or their businesses allow them to go back to work, we'll go back to work. Some others will continue to work from home. Schools will start reopening in the fall and maybe have kids that are
Do you think schools are going to reopen? I don't think they are, honestly.
Well, it depends. I mean, but we're talking about everything. Like hairdressers, beauty parlors, shopping malls, everything. Like they will have to start.
I mean, shopping malls, I mean... there's a guy who writes this publication called 2 p.m. It's great. If you're in retail, you should read it. And he's one of the smartest guys in retail, and he's basically said that malls are done. Malls are done. They were already dying a slow death, and this was the nail in the coffin. I agree. More than because it's funny because he was giving the data, and it was what is the malls per capita or mall square footage per capita in the United States, basically. And the U.S. was double. Basically, the U.S. has twice as many malls per person as any other country in the world. And the next highest, I think, was Germany. And it was slowly shrinking over time. Basically, we just had way too many malls in the first place. On top of that, you have the digital revolution that started killing off malls. And now you have this third thing of basically the virus killing malls. And that he basically said we could see more than half of all malls in the United States just shut down and never come back.
Well, they will. I mean, it's just not... I mean, for one, as you know, the malls are based on tenants paying rent for their spaces. Some of them are saying they're not going to pay. Some of the anchor stores that are, whether it's a Macy's or a Nordstrom or even restaurants, are saying, we're not going to pay any more rental fees or leases or anything like that. So at some point, those things will become like big monsters with space.
This is why, when we had our first podcast, like 2 months ago, discussing the repercussions of coronavirus, one of the things I said was that I think the commercial real estate market, especially on the retail side, but even in offices too, I think the commercial real estate market is going to totally collapse. Because people are going to realize, you know what, a lot of companies are going to say, maybe we don't need all these big offices. And then on the retail side, there's going to be so many retailers that go out of business, so many malls. I think that the prices are just going to go way down, because these if you're a commercial retail owner and you own all this retail space, you're going to have to come to the realization that, hey, I just can't charge the rents that I'm used to charging. Then I'm going to have to do a 40% markdown on my rent. So if I used to charge whatever amount, obviously it varies, but let's say you have a space and you're normally charging for this certain slot in a mall, 15,000 a month in rent. Now that's going to be 10,000 or less, basically. And I just think that's the new reality, and they're going to have to realize that.
I was looking actually. I was thinking very thoroughly about what's going to be. We've been talking about the new normal for a while now, and really there's no. I don't know what the new normal would be or the new not normal, but I was really thinking about trying to separate verticals or industries and see which ones will be able to recover faster, which ones are going to have a hard time, and which ones are going to have a hard, crude reality check as far as how they do it. And we have this chart over here, which is actually from our open table. And I really think, and this is something that it hurts because we work a lot with hospitality and restaurants and all that in marketing, but I really do think that hospitality and restaurants and that industry and the travel industry in general is going to be hard hit for a long time, and many of the small independent hotels specifically and smaller restaurants will just not make it. I mean, some of them have already shut down, but I think if they were barely making a profit when the restaurant was full or 80-90% occupancy, they will just not make it now, because to be able to have people to go to a restaurant these days, it is one thing that you reopen. Another thing is that customers decide to come and they feel safe. And you cannot just reopen. That's the thing that I think there's a big disconnect too with all these hotel operators, especially the smaller ones, where they think, I hope, and I hear that all the time. I talk to marketing directors and vice presidents of e-commerce of this. Most of them are just saying, I hope this goes over soon and blah, blah, this goes over so we go back to normal. And I'm thinking, there's not going to be back to normal the way you were basically 3 months ago. People are no longer going to...
Not for a while.
No, exactly. I mean, customers...
The CEO of Skift, which basically they're an industry publication for hospitality and travel. And if anybody is supposed to be kind of biased and kind of lying about it, because most of his customers are literally marketing executives, hotel executives, airline executives, he basically said, I think it's going to be 5 years.
Oh, at least. But not just 5 years for that. It's going to be a whole new look and way to operate. So it's not like most of the hotels and major properties are now shut down. Yep. They basically they didn't have a choice, because you cannot operate a monster 500 room hotel when you have no guests. When people cannot travel, they cannot stay. I mean, basically you have to shut down. Let your employees go and say, hopefully we'll call you back as soon as we get back to business. But it's not like you say, okay, we're shutting down because whatever situation, like an earthquake or something, or some other catastrophe, and we're fine, but every road that leads to us is busted. So we need to shut down for 2 months until the bridge is rebuilt. Okay, fine. And you go open back to normal. This is not that. This is a situation where life as we know it is going to change. And it's going to change for good. And you cannot just reopen like business as usual. You're going to have to make drastic changes to the way you operate, the way you manage your restaurants, the way you do your room service, that when you do your house cleaning, your booking, your registrations, interactions, everything, for guests to feel comfortable that they can go there after being 3 months secluded in their homes or even with their families and then feel safe. It's just not going to happen like that. So that's what we were talking last time about this health passport or something. And that's another thing that I want to discuss today as we have more time with the privacy and all this contact tracing and all the stuff that we're going to get to. So remind me of that. But the main thing with this is that you see business open table bookings, and I was just reading, basically...
Yeah, scroll down on the page.
Yeah, Open Table has had basically...
Because I sent out in my weekly newsletter that I send out Open Table bookings about a month ago in early March. Yeah. And it was down 70%. And I was like, wow.
Well, this is open. This is updated. This is actually by Open Table.
So
this
for
is
those listening, we have a table from Open Table. Open Table is, if anybody doesn't know, it's a restaurant booking service, basically. So you can reserve online, basically.
So this chart, which is actually by Open Table instead of the industry, they show you the trend in all the countries where Open Table has a presence, which is obviously in the US, UK, Mexico, Ireland, Germany, Canada, Australia, and then global. So when you look at this is day by day and it's updated by them. So
I sent this. So scroll over a little. I sent this around here, somewhere around here, mid-March last month, when it was like U.S. You can see down 56, down 48.
But look at the drastic changes. Just at the beginning of March. Okay, March 1st, the U.S. was reservations for restaurants were up 2%. Okay, year over year. And then the
Germany.
global was even.
Germany was up 9%.
Right. Germany was better. Obviously, it depends on the geographic location, weather, and all that stuff. But anyways, March.
But basically, this is early March.
Was doing pretty good.
Scroll
and then
over.
look at how quickly it got bad. Then this is 315 is when the U.S. started basically we started feeling it at the beginning of March. And then I think it was the 14th or the 15th where we officially declared state of emergency or whatever. And then from there, 2 days later, it went down from down 48% to down 84% to down 91% to basically zero. I mean, right now, for the last basically month, okay, this is 317, where now this is 422, April 22nd. We've been down to zero reservations through OpenTable.
Happy Earth Day, everybody. You know, the Earth is feeling good. There's a lot less pollution these days. But,
yeah, that's right. But the point is that obviously OpenTable is hurting because they get commissions. But the main thing is
this chart, because this is global.
Right.
This is Australia, Canada, Germany, Ireland, Mexico, UK, US. This chart says it all. I mean, I think that's, you really don't need to say, you know.
And I believe they have about 60,000.
Pictures are worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
Charts are worth 1,000,000 words.
Well, and
there you go.
And this is an example of OpenTable basically manages, I believe, is about 60,000 restaurants around the world, majority in the US. But that's telling you,
they're the largest online booking engine for restaurants, reservation engine.
Right. So it tells you that this is not going to recover just because the economy say, or the governments of different countries say, oh, we're going to start phase 1, phase 2. For those, there's conditions to that. And then a restaurant owner may say, based on the governor of the state information, they say, okay, well, the cases are decreasing. We don't have any new cases. Mortality is decreasing, all that stuff. We have social distance masks and everything. And then it says, yes, we can start opening the restaurant, but it's going to have to be a 50% capacity because they require social distancing and all that stuff. Then I'm going to have to put maybe some dividers. I'm going to have to redo the menu so they are not like all these greasy things that everybody touches. I'm going to have to redo how the food is served, the drinks are prepared, everything.
I'm sending you a link too because I want to. We're talking about charts. I'm pulling it up, so that's what I'm doing on my phone. But yeah, like I said, this says it all.
But this is just restaurants. Okay, when you look at Expedia is basically, and all the online travel agencies are the same. That's for travel, airplanes, flight travels and everything else. So they're in the same boat. Expedia basically said they're actually right now asking for financing from their own financing their own debt, I guess, asking for almost $4 billion. But Expedia said basically we're only spending, their advertising spend has decreased a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Booking, I think it was it Expedia or Booking, and the CEO of one of them basically said last year we spent,
it was Expedia basically.
I think he said last year we spent $4 or $5 billion on Google ads.
Yeah, that was
this
Expedia.
year we will spend less than $1 billion.
Yes.
We'll spend $800 million, I think is what he said.
Right.
So that's basically 80+% drop in ad spend. And obviously that's why when you look at the ripple effects, you'd say, okay, well, Google shouldn't be directly impacted. But yeah, they are, because if all of a sudden, I mean, we don't know yet. We're in marketing, and I've seen estimates that are guessing that we'll see a 20 to 30% drawdown in global ad spend this year compared to last year. And that's massive. That is massive, basically, because if that's down, then, for example, lots of agencies, then if all of a sudden they lose 20% of their clients, then they have to start laying people off, right? These are the ripple effects that happen. And then I just sent you a chart that is, we talk about who is affected, who is not affected. And basically, if you click and open this real quick.
Hold on, let me get to the mouse here. Okay.
And then just open that real quick. Basically, this is...
you need to explain it for people that are not watching.
Yeah, so for anybody listening or watching, basically this chart is showing the annual investment from VCs in early stage consumer startups. So these are D2C companies and basically consumer apps. And so these guys are directly, we've seen this boom. So it starts in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. And you can see how, obviously, it's kind of sporadic by year, but it was a general uptrend, especially 2018 was the biggest boom. Then 2019, because so many companies were kind of facing a reckoning, we saw the WeWork collapse. We saw Uber hit a lot of trouble when it went public. You saw lots of companies do layoffs and kind of shut down, like Brandless. So already investment was kind of shrinking in consumer. And now look at 2020. This is basically, and that's not going up. No. Basically, for anybody listening, the 2020 chart is basically zero, or not zero, but there's going to be incredibly little money from VCs put into consumer apps
to that, the
and
fact
consumer
that
product
all
companies.
these VCs realized that the growth out of costs, as we also mentioned before, is basically gone. Before they were just putting money thinking, okay, returns will just come. Now they're not coming.
Right.
So
now I'll say this chart personally makes me kind of excited because obviously I don't want to see VC money dry up. VC money is a very important part of the
it's
ecosystem.
what shows the growth of.
But it's an important part of the ecosystem. But I think that many consumer companies were getting out of control with their spending, and I think now we're going to see a thriving of the prudent, disciplined consumer companies succeed, and that makes me excited because those are the companies that we work with. We work with a lot of we work with a lot of companies who are bootstrapped or have some funding but are not raising $30 million and then spending it all on Facebook ads, so that makes me kind of excited. But we talk about the ripple effects. These are the effects, basically. It affects everything. We even talk about, like, for example, like we actually had a chat earlier this week because we were just saying, this is actually on the day that oil dropped, and it was like, all these stocks were getting impacted. And it was like, well, why would Caterpillar be down, 6% today? And it's like, well, think about it. How does Caterpillar make money? Well, they sell machinery and equipment for building things. Well, if oil's down, all of the U.S. oil, basically refineries and drillers are going to be out of business. So they're not going to be buying all this equipment from Cat. And at the same time, nobody's building new hotels right now. Nobody is building new hangars for airplanes. Like, all of this. These are the ripple effects. So even though you say, well, Cat shouldn't be really directly affected, well, directly, no, but indirectly, yes. It's the second and third order effects. I'm sure if you look at new construction numbers this year, nobody's building new commercial real estate, that's for sure. Nobody's building new oil refineries, right? All these things, and that's how Cat makes. And so that's how you have the ripple effects through the whole economy. And that's how you have 20-30% unemployment, because you have the direct effect and then all these other people who get affected too.
Right, and that's the point of the that we were discussing before, as far as the recovery. How soon will it happen? Before, people were thinking, "Oh shoot!" It's like, like you multiply the personal effect towards a global effect, and you say, "Okay, if I have the flu, I may have to stay home for a week or 2 weeks, and then I recover, go back to work. Okay, yeah, it was a screw up, whatever. It was a fucked up time for me, but I'm back to normal now." We were thinking that the whole world had the flu or something like that. Oh, we're gonna be fucked up for 2 weeks and confinement, so we don't, get each other the disease and all that. But this is not it. This is basically 26 million unemployed people. Is not pocket change, and you don't get those people back to work right away. And in which conditions and all that. I mean, people are now thinking when they're even making plans to reopen the economy, teachers are saying, I don't want to go back to school with 40 kids that are, and restaurant workers are saying, I don't want to go back to my restaurant that is,
well, not even just the workers, people.
And the people, exactly.
Like,
so
listen,
when you combine...
I love eating out, but like...
Right.
I don't want to go to a restaurant right now. I don't want to go to a restaurant in the next 4 months, that's for sure.
Right. And the restaurants now are barely surviving with this takeout and drive-thrus, if they haven't, or curbside pickups and all that stuff, just trying to make a living and keep people employed and the kitchen moving. But that's not what a restaurant has, a place where they're paying prime real estate in a location just to help people curbside pickup.
Well, that gets into the... this is a topic we can probably have next week because it's something I wanted to discuss more. But I really wonder where the e-com versus real estate versus retail balance will be, let's say 18 months from now, way after this, basically. Like, let's say not even 2021, like where are we 2022? Like once we're way past this. And I think that because I've seen a ton of discussion of this from lots of people in D2C, in e-com, in retail. Fuck, I keep saying real estate, in retail, and discussing how all of this commercial real estate. I am tripping over my words constantly here. All of this
Is that the coffee?
I'm going crazy right now. I literally am mixing every word I'm saying.
Could you start again, please?
Let me rewind for a second.
Okay.
All of this commercial real estate will need to be repurposed because we're going to have so many vacancies. Either basically I think that first of all, we're going to see a lot of the investors and owners of these properties just declare bankruptcy because they're going to be underwater in the same way that a lot of people go underwater on their mortgages.
Subprime, yeah.
If they're paying, let's say right now you have like I said, like a lot where you own this store. For very simple math, you charge $15,000 a month in rent, and it costs you $12,000 a month in a mortgage, and so you have that $3,000 in profit a month, and then you have other expenses, but basically that's your margin. But now all of a sudden you're not going to be able to rent that out for more than $10,000 a month. So now you're losing money. You're underwater on that, and I just think a lot of commercial real estate entities are going to be completely underwater in the next year or two. And so we're going to have to ask ourselves, how are these retail? Because the U.S. has so much retail square footage. It's unbelievable. And we're going to have so many vacancies in every city across the country that we're going to have to ask, how are these going to be reused and utilized in the future? Because if they just remain empty, that is devastating to the economy, because that is real estate that is being completely unused. But I don't necessarily have an answer, but it's something that I think everybody in both e-com and retail needs to be discussing, because it's going to be I just think we're going to see commercial real estate drop 30%, if not more. I mean, I just think we are.
That everything. I mean, even dealerships, for example, same thing. Nobody's going to,
right.
Dealerships.
Why do you need to go to a dealership?
I know.
It was already antiquated.
I know. Exactly. I when I bought our last car, I never even touched the dealership. I went online. I think I used TrueCar, one of these apps. Went online, found it. It was actually for a car. Yeah, I forgot if it was a truck. It was the car. So, anyways, I went online, found the car that I wanted. It was at a local dealership. The local dealership contacted me, and I talked on the phone with the sales reps, and they said, yes, we have this one. They sent me pictures, the pricing, all that stuff. And they said, we can drive it to you so you can do a test drive. So they came here. They came to my house. I drove around the neighborhood, and then I went back, and I said, yes, it's good. So they took it back, and then they prepared all the paperwork. He came here, signed up right at this table in the office, and then the car was outside. Never touched the dealership. Never had to do anything. I didn't care much about going anywhere. So I don't understand the dealerships now. I mean, obviously they are dead too, because there's no salespeople or nothing. They're trying to come up with incentives to buy the cars and all that stuff. But all the cars are in the lots right now.
Right. Who's buying a new car right now? People say, you know what? I would like a new
right.
car, but mine still works. I'm fine.
Right. But that's just an example of we're going through, like we said, okay, restaurants, hotels, car buying, this, that. I mean, shopping, retailers.
But everything, construction,
everything.
It affects everything.
It affects everything. So when we go back to work, there are some industries that will be better suited for the new normal than others. Like if you're in a corporate world or something, a lot of people are saying, well, I was already working from home maybe 2-3 days a week. So now, I have more, instead of traveling twice a month for conferences and meetings with clients, now we're doing Zoom and it's fine. And Zoom is going through the roof, and the Zoom subscribers have increased like 100 million in the last.
It's interesting you say that, because I was thinking about how we could reuse office spaces, because office spaces have their benefits, right? The thing that's nice about having an office is that you definitely feel more of a connection with the people you work with, and it's easier to build culture when you're all in a space together than if you're all working remote. That doesn't mean you can't build a culture, but it's just a little more difficult. And there's other things that, like Steve Jobs famously has this saying where he says there's what did he say? The serendipitous, like basically the serendipitous meetings and conversations that come up that may inspire different things.
Right.
But obviously there's also disadvantages to the office. One, obviously the biggest being for the companies themselves, the cost of the office space. Two, everybody has to commute there.
Not only that, the lack of productivity too.
Yeah, and then three, that the good parts of the office are that you have more community and culture, but the bad part is that can also lead to a lot of slacking off, a lot of unnecessary meetings and conversations, a lack of productivity,
distractions
a lot of times.
and things like that.
Yeah, so there's pros and cons. And I was thinking, okay, what if companies in the future, like if say we wanted to basically have an office, but we said, you know what, we don't need to be in the office every day. What if only we needed to be in the office 2 or 3 days a week, and the other days people work from home? And I think a lot of companies are going to do this. So what if you partner with another company and basically says, Monday, Tuesday, we get the office, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you guys get the office, or something like that. And basically we'll split the bill or something along those lines. I think that's going to happen because I think that it's good to be in the office maybe 2 or 3 days a week, but I definitely don't think companies need to be in the office 5 days a week. And I think it's actually beneficial to say, especially when you have, depending on the type of work people do, when you talk about like deep focused work, it's just so much better to do that at home in silence, in your privacy, and you can focus for 4 hours without getting distracted or anything like that. Hey, what do you want to get for lunch?
Yeah,
hey, I'm going to grab a coffee.
Yeah, one of the comments from people that are working from home these days is that they have distractions, that like kids at home and all that stuff, which is not normal. But at the same time, they're saying I'm so much more productive. It's like I noticed that normal things that'll take me a whole day to do at the office, now I'm doing them in half a day, and then I still have another half a day that I can get forward. So obviously, I mean, it's the famous thing that people say, hey, I'm going to stay home today because I really need to focus and finish this proposal or this estimate or this quote. So people stay home to focus, but they go to the office to work. All right, well, that kind of explains a little bit the situation. Right. But yeah, there's community and all that stuff. So I wanted to also get into contact tracing. That's a very hot topic for me. But let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. David, so I wanted to go with you over this contact tracing that I've heard or we've been listening to for a while. And this is, again, going back to what we think is going to be the new normal. So I've been hearing all kinds of versions of this thing, and we kind of touched on it, I think, last weekend too. But it's basically almost like creating some type of health passport that is coordinated with the and the health passport being a passport.
The passport is more than that. The passport, you're going to another level. That they're talking about tracing. Like we're going to track you 24/7 everywhere you go.
Well, yeah, but the health passport basically is an international approval thing that is coordinated with maybe with the WHO and the CDCs of different countries and all that stuff.
That's great.
Yeah, I know. But
I really
this is let's just pretend that this is like we're in a little bit of science fiction, which may become more science than fiction.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
But let me explain it to you. So we have just like that, you have a passport, normal passport for traveling, where you basically go through your local agencies, and they say, okay, yeah, this is a safe citizen, you can travel, and you have your visas and all that stuff. You get approved and travel through countries. Now you have this kind of health passport where it's like a worldwide database of health information. Okay, they don't care about anything else, just want to make sure that you're healthy and you're not going to go back and give a virus, like you escape a country with malaria and they go into another country and then you spread the disease or whatever. So with this passport, basically you prove that either it could be COVID-19 or it could be any other SARS disease.
Right. Okay. You have
whatever.
A passport that tells you that you're healthy.
It tells you that
and
you
then
basically.
On top of that, they're going to track everywhere you go.
And the contact tracing obviously goes because you have on your phone, and this is in coordination with the big industries, like the could be Facebook, could be Google, could be Apple. They're already working together, by the way. So you have an app on your phone that is like your passport ID. And then it says, yes, you have the antibodies or you recover from COVID-19 or 20 or 21 or whatever and you're healthy, and you basically don't have any risk. So you have like a green status, so to speak, to go into places. Okay, so that might be the way that you can access certain areas like restaurants, hotels.
Yeah, here's my
sporting events, things like that.
Here's my view. If we lived in an ideal world where there were no bad actors and the WHO could be trusted and governments never took advantage of privacy overstepping, and they said, no, this is only going to be for the next 12 months just so we can get it under control, but then after that we're not doing this anymore. And they had a great the government had a great record of really like preserving people's privacy. Then I would say, yeah, you know what, maybe that's the right idea. For the next 12 months, we all kind of collectively decide, even though this isn't what I personally would want, it's good for society, and we'll do that. And then it's just a year, and then after that, we go back to normal. Then I would say yes. But we don't live in that world.
But this is not.
We don't live in that world. We
This
live
is
in a
not just for
world
the
where the
US.
WHO.
This is a worldwide.
I understand. We live in a world where the WHO can't be trusted for shit. They're in China's pocket. The CDC is completely incompetent. The U.S. government has, I think, for the last 20 years, shown no regard for privacy whatsoever. So in the world that we actually live in the non-ideal world, unfortunately, I say no, because it's not going to be 12 months. Even if they say this is only for 12 months and then it's back to normal.
Okay, well that's your.
Then I don't believe them. In the same way that the Patriot Act was supposed to be a temporary measure and it still hasn't changed.
I understand, but let's say that that's obviously your opinion, but let's say that
I mean, it's an opinion, but at the same time, you really think that once this is in place, they're going to take it back?
Well, I mean, no, it may have to be in place forever.
Okay, then no.
Okay,
100% no.
Okay, I understand, but then if it's implemented and they say, listen, we're going to have to put. Just like when you travel to another country, they're already doing that stuff. If you want to get a passport,
I'm not.
Okay,
traveling to another country is different.
Well,
okay?
but this is what it's about.
But if you're going to a fucking restaurant, and if I don't have my, if I don't consent to being tracked 24/7, I can't go to a fucking restaurant. No, I'm not okay with that.
Okay, well, then the restaurant may not allow you to go in because the restaurant cannot afford to have a person that is potentially sick going there and causing another pandemic in their own restaurant. There's a lot of legal ramifications. I mean, what may happen is that you have this health passport or health pass that says, yeah, you are basically green, and then you go into a restaurant where you know every other person that has entered that restaurant is just as clean as you are. The restaurant may not risk its own reputation just because you don't want to go there and you don't want to be traced. If you don't want to be traced, you have the choice of not going to that restaurant. And then you go to another restaurant where they say, okay, we don't do health ID or whatever. Fine. You want to go there and take a risk. But if I'm a restaurant owner, I want to make sure that...
Yeah, what happens if the government just mandates that all public establishments need to?
That's what I'm saying, that could be the new...
And are you for that?
Well, it's not. At some point, you need to decide we're going to have to give up on some of our civil liberties in exchange for health and safety. Well, hold on a second. We know what the results are of not having this. The results are that if there's another pandemic or situation like this, nobody benefits. And we all stay home.
There's other ways to control these things without fucking stripping away people's civil liberties. Okay? We wouldn't be in this mess if we actually acted in January when we should have. Okay? So we don't need to we don't need to all of a sudden turn into a fucking 1984 police state because of this pandemic. We need competent government officials. That's what we need.
Okay, well, we can go and play Monday morning quarterback.
It's not Monday morning quarterback. I was on this podcast talking about it. I was writing in my newsletter in January, and I'm a fucking idiot. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not a government official, and I was saying shit that the WHO was denying.
Okay,
and it wasn't just me. It was plenty of people. We need competent leadership and officials, but not a police state. That's not the answer.
I understand, but the truth is that we and every other country in the world because they are in the same situation. No country has been able to overcome or have 0 cases. I mean, even Singapore that we
I
always
didn't
put
say
up.
you have to have 0 cases, but
No,
you don't
but
have
even-
to have outbreak.
No,
You
but
can have
even
very
Singapore,
contained.
that was as a sample of a country that did everything right, not having a flare-up of second round of
Taiwan
cases.
did everything right, and guess what? Taiwan has no cases.
Okay,
or
well-
incredibly few.
Okay, that's fine, but the majority of the civilized countries, we can get into that too, because
Yeah,
that's
and the
another.
majority of the
but let me
civilized
ask you-
countries have completely incompetent leadership.
Well, exactly, but we can get into that too, because that's another discussion saying the totalitarian countries have actually responded better because
No, they
of
haven't. That's the thing.
Well,
no, they haven't.
yeah.
China has more cases than anybody in the world. They might lie about it, but they have more cases than anybody in the world.
Well, yeah, maybe they lied about it, but they are flat, and now they say we only have 1 cases, no
Yeah,
more cases,
they're
this and
fucking
that.
lying.
Okay, well that's fine.
Very
they're
simple.
lying. Okay, that's fine. But then you have other countries like Taiwan. We don't know.
Taiwan, we do know.
Okay, we have a lot. How much do you know about North Korea? What's happening there?
Yeah, of course. I don't know what happened.
Okay,
in
well,
North
exactly.
Korea.
That's what I'm saying. We don't even know if the president is still alive.
But Taiwan
okay?
is not North Korea.
No, I understand, but I'm just telling you. I understand. I'm just telling you that countries where things are more under government control, they basically said we're gonna do this, and that's it. Period. And then they were able to control it more. It's in the more democratic countries that we've had situations where we need to pass this, we need to pass that, we need to have the consensus and this and that and all that stuff. So the entire world wasn't ready for this. And I don't even know. I mean, from the Western world, it looks like Germany was probably the most ready one. They started doing massive testing from the beginning, and that's how they were able to assess the cases. When you look at Germany, they have as many cases as pretty much any other major European country.
And why?
But
why?
like
why
I said,
did Germany
they were
do
doing
so
more
much better?
testing from the beginning.
Because Germany, out of all the modern countries, probably, even though I still think a lot of their leaders are not great, they probably have the most competent leadership out of any modern
Well,
country.
again, but let's go into the future. Okay, not the past. So,
But the past is, what I'm saying is, we should learn from this. And the next time there's rumors and early signs, early warnings of a pandemic, a potential virus spreading that could be a pandemic, that next time we shut things down in January when we should have, instead of waiting until March when it was too late.
well,
That's
I
my
mean,
point.
that we can get into. I mean, but we don't know. I mean, you follow like your favorite WHO. They didn't say that it was the pandemic
Exactly.
until much later.
Incompetent and
Okay.
corrupt. A double whammy.
Well, that's fine. Okay, and Trump took his credit.
It's like, do
Did
you
close,
trust
did close the
who's
country.
more dangerous in power, a fool or a crook? I don't know. In the WHO's case, it's both.
Right. Okay. Fine. But I'm just trying to move forward. Okay. So
And I'm trying to move forward.
Yeah,
too.
I understand.
And I'm saying
I understand, but
the
let me-
answer is competent
Yes, okay,
leadership.
that's a-
who
that's a
learns
utopic
from-
thing.
It's not
Okay.
utopic. It's not utopic.
okay, who's
saying-
competent? So
It's saying
okay. Let me ask you.
learn from what happened.
All right, that's fine. So we have elections in the country in 6 months or whatever. Do you think we're gonna have a competent
No, of course
incumbent
not.
president or new president?
It's a bigger
Okay, well then-
discussion. It's a bigger discussion.
Okay, well then let's be practical. Okay,
No,
so
no. The practical thing
Okay.
is saying that we need. Again, this is a whole larger conversation. The answer is break up the duopoly in American politics.
Okay.
That's the real answer.
That's fine. Well,
that's how you change.
yeah,
the
not
whole
really,
system.
because you go to Europe and they have a multi-partisan situation.
It's not about multi-partisan. It's not about that.
What is the duopoly that you're talking about?
Well, it's a duopoly, but it's not just about the multipartisanship. Okay, that is one thing. Yes, the fact that we have a duopoly where it's literally you are right or left and there's nothing else is fucking crazy. Okay.
Okay.
But then on top of that, you have these leaders and entrenched politicians. I mean, the majority of Congress is baby boomers or even older. Silent
No,
generation.
I understand. I understand.
Why?
I
That didn't
understand.
used to be the case. The average
But-
age of Congress has gotten older and older and
But
older. Go look at the average age of
no,
Congress
I
in the
understand.
60s.
I'm not talking about Congress. I'm talking about.
It's everything. It's
I
everything.
understand,
Well,
but I'm just basically-
Trump
David,
or
can I say
Biden
something?
or Bernie or Elizabeth Warren, whoever won the presidency, would be the oldest president we ever had.
Okay, I'm not talking about the president or politics or Congress. I'm talking about practicality as far as saying
Yeah.
business executives, startups, investors, VCs, they're all saying that they very
They're
much
not
see.
all saying.
Okay, many of the ones that you and I listen to are saying that we all see a place where they may have this health checks in place. Just like
I'm
you
not
go.
saying they're not going to try to
let
put
me,
them
let me
in
make
place.
my point for a second.
I'm saying that they shouldn't.
Okay.
And like I said, if
David.
we lived in an ideal world where they did it for 12 months and then, okay, back to normal, no more tracking, I would be for it. But we don't live in that ideal world, unfortunately.
Once we had terrorist attacks, we went to a world where basically we need to be checked and triple checked before going through the airport. And we had TSAs and other stuff. That happens worldwide, okay? So now this is a biological invisible enemy virus, okay? So I think it makes sense to a certain point that, to a certain extent, that you go through a public place, whether it's an airport or a place where there's a lot of people there, a sporting event or whatever, or hotel, and they say, hey, we need to make sure that you don't have any disease with you. I personally prefer to know that if I'm jumping on a plane, that the rest of the passengers that are like a feet away from me or a foot away from me or even closer that are healthy, as opposed to having a guy that is coughing or whatever, and then I don't know if he's just coughing or like I just did, or if the guy has some kind of virus. But if I know that the guy went to some kind of health passport and it says, okay, well, that guy is as healthy as I am. So that's my point.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Well, I mean, that's
part,
just...
But I'm saying that...
I mean, everybody's saying that this COVID-19, first of all, is not going away.
It's a slippery slope.
Okay, yeah,
that's
of course.
the problem.
Yes,
it's a
but
slippery
consider
slope.
the alternative.
And it's the shifting of the Overton window on what governments are allowed to do. And when you start giving up your civil liberties, they're going to take more of them. This is not anything new. It's been happening for 3,000 years.
Haven't they taken your civil liberties now by telling you to stay home for 6 weeks or 8 weeks and basically do nothing? They've taken your job. They've taken your ability to go out. I mean, you have no civil liberties. There's countries, civilized countries, where basically they've been confined in their houses. In Arizona, we're a little more free to do some stuff. But go to New York. I mean, they're being like locked down there for weeks now. But in Europe, they've been under heavy confinement because that's what they said. You can only go once a day, buy food, or go to a pharmacy. That's it. You cannot do anything. Talk about civil liberties.
I'm not disagreeing with those measures because they're temporary, okay? No government would ever say, okay, no one's allowed to leave their house.
But the virus is not temporary, David. That's what we were talking about.
No, the virus is not temporary, but I'm saying... No, the virus is not temporary, and there will be more viruses in the future. But I'm saying that there's better ways to do it than all of a sudden.
Like what?
Like I said, acting sooner.
Yes,
that's the
but
answer.
You can't always act sooner because this is not something that you can prevent. Okay, with the flu and all these other things, we say, okay, we have the flu season, we have the strain that we're gonna try to have a vaccination. Even now, they have shots for the flu, and as you said before, you don't take a shot or you don't take a flu shot. I don't get flu shots either. So that doesn't mean, I mean, I can go somewhere and says, okay, well, I never get sick or whatever is fine. I just prefer not to be around people that are sick because I usually get sick when people are sick and get me sick, and that happens to everybody. But the flu is known and all that stuff, and even though we have vaccines for that, there are people that don't like it, that don't take it, whatever. People
to
still
clarify,
get
in case people didn't hear, the reason I don't take flu shots anymore is because I've never gotten the flu in my life. I never get sick, and the only times, I took it twice basically.
And you got sick because you took it.
And both times I got super sick.
I understand, but that's your choice and it's fine. But I'm saying that you can't always.
I just don't want people to think I'm like anti-vax. I'm not anti-vax.
No. But you can always anticipate or have this thing about, there's going to be this pandemic or whatever. I mean, we had tons of things going on. We had the Zika virus, we had the this and that, the H1N1 and this and that. They can spread, they cannot spread. You never know until the WHO or whatever statistic you have to say, okay, for now, yes, we're going to declare a pandemic because it's expanding to more. And the world is more global now. You need to understand that the more we evolve, the more we travel. Before, for people to travel outside of their city was unusual. Outside of the state was even more unusual. Now people are traveling internationally. So all it takes is one person that runs with one virus from one country and comes, and the person may not even know that he got that disease or that virus, which is what happened. All the initial stuff that happened in Washington or here or some Chinese or whatever, they're still trying to trace how was the first person number one. In Europe, they detected that it wasn't even a one single case or patient 0 or 1 or whatever. It was like 14, 15 different things from different places that were at the same time. So it's not easy to do that. It's not the government, it's not the congressman that is 80 years old or whatever. That's not what it is. It's just basically things happen. So
No, I disagree.
okay,
I disagree.
well, that's fine.
Because they didn't act. They didn't act.
Okay, yeah, they didn't act to prevent it faster. And maybe instead of 40,000 people dead in the U.S., we would have had 20. Okay, there's countries that acted very fast, as you know, and they still have victims. They still had deaths. They still had to
I'm not
take
saying
measures.
you're not going to have any cases, but you're not going to have an epidemic. That's the difference.
Okay, well, a pandemic is basically when the cases happen in majority of countries. That's what pandemic means.
No, I said epidemic.
I understand.
I'm saying you won't have outbreaks, okay? I mean, Taiwan is a perfect example. Taiwan, in the second week of January, shut their border, okay? Because they realized it real quick. Obviously, they're in very close proximity to China, and they have tons of travel between China and Taiwan, or Chinese Taipei, as China would like to call it, but I call it Taiwan. And so they shut it down like that. And guess what? They put very strict measures very quickly, and then they have not had any outbreaks. They've had very few deaths, very few cases. It's completely under control, okay? Because Taiwan, first of all, was heavily affected by the SARS outbreak last time, and so they were ready. Korea, same thing. Korea obviously acted very quickly too, and that's a country that a lot of people are pointing to. No, I'm not saying you can have 0 cases. Obviously, when you have something as contagious as this with international travel. But the fact that our government, okay, our president in late February was saying it's just the flu.
Okay, well that's fine. I mean, I'm not talking about the U.S. or any other country.
It's every country. It wasn't just
No,
Trump, by
but
the way.
I'm just
I mean,
talking-
Macron actually said it like 2 days after Trump said it was the flu. Macron said we're not shutting anything down, and then the next day said, "Oh, we're shutting down the whole country."
Okay, I
mean,
understand, but I'm not making this a political discussion.
Okay, but it is a political discussion.
Okay, well,
it is a political discussion. It's a discussion of the answer is not give the idiots more power. The answer is get rid of the idiots. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's very utopic because it's not going to happen. You have too many idiots. So
It does
if
happen.
for you, if every government elected official is an idiot, then why you vote for them? I mean,
I don't vote for them.
okay, well that's fine. But my point is that let's forget the politics for now. Okay, let's be practical.
But you're
And then-
talking a political issue. You
Okay.
say, should we take away civil liberties? That's the most political fucking
no,
conversation we could have.
I'm asking you if in the future, which may well happen, we know enough to say that COVID-19 is not going to disappear. It may be under control, but it's basically here to stay. We may have COVID-20, COVID-21, whatever, different types of coronavirus diseases phases coming in the future, and they will happen. I mean, they're already saying that it's not going to disappear in the fall, in the winter, or whatever. And we just have, and next fall, winter, we're going to have the coexistence of flu, which we didn't have this year because by the time COVID started, flu was over, and COVID. So we'll see how we deal with that. Okay, so that's happening this fall, winter, which now they're starting to say, yeah, we need to get ready for that and make sure that we can control it. Good luck, because there's no vaccine yet. Okay, so, but there might be a situation, and some countries have already implemented, where they say, hey, yeah, we're going to have some kind of thing where we can control the mobility of people that are positive, basically, or people that are not clear. And you're going to have somehow to have a separation between the people who have the antibodies and they pass the disease and they are this and that, or the people that are basically with symptoms, and separate them. That's the only way. That's the social distance. It's going to be real social distance if we want to reopen the economy. So at some point you need to decide, just like we go to the airport and they say, hey, I know you're a great guy, but I want to make sure that you don't carry anything. And they say, take your shoes off, take everything out of your pockets, blah, 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 x-ray, all that stuff, and you go through, okay? And you go through and travel. Well, they're going to say, okay, show me your phone. Yeah, you're green, perfect, just go through. You're not, no, sorry, you cannot get on this plane. That's basically it. There has to be a way where they can check if people are sick or not. That's the bottom line. They cannot get 200 people in a metal tube with one person who is sick. And that person travels to Berlin in Germany. And then when they go there, they're going to say, are you good? Yeah. If not, sorry. I'm sorry. You cannot enter this country. I don't see... yeah, it's a civil liberty, whatever. I mean, it's...
For international travel, I leave that up
for
to
any type of
countries to
travel.
decide. I'm okay. If countries want to do that, I don't have a problem. I'm talking, you're taking it a step further where you're saying you can't go get a coffee without your health pass.
No, I mean, I'm talking when you go to certain events where there's like crowded events. And that's something that, again, if you're going to a stadium or some kind of sporting event or trade show or something, they already check you. You go to a movie theater, they may want to know that you're healthy, because that's just normal. Otherwise, the movie theater may be liable, maybe actually sued. In some cases, there are situations where they can basically say, hey, you admitted this guy that was sick knowing that you weren't supposed to, and now we're going to have our team basically, or a lawyer sue you because you got all these horrible people sick. So, I mean, there's a lot of, it's some discussion that needs to be had, because
I'm not disagreeing it's a discussion that's
right.
going to be had.
I know.
I'm not disagreeing that no solution is perfect. But I'm saying,
let's say you go to a gym.
Sorry if I'm incredibly, how do you want to say it?
No, I understand.
Untrusting.
I know, I understand. And you don't have to be sorry about that. I mean, the bottom line is that right now we're being traced all the time anyways. I mean, as you know, with your phone and everything else on this, you have a burner phone or something, you're being traced all the time. And the people know, I mean, all the apps that you have are tracing you, are tracking you. That's how you know if there's traffic or not, because the phones are basically saying, oh, this guy's in the car and stuck in traffic. And there's 10 people with the same phone, with the same truck, and they're stuck in traffic. That's how Google knows that there's traffic ahead of you, because all these phones are being stuck in traffic. So you're being traced anonymously all the time.
No, I understand.
So,
but you're taking it to another level.
No, it's the same level. If you are driving on a freeway and you see on your little
I
Google
understand how
map
the
a
maps
red
work. No,
area.
I totally understand.
Okay, you understand, but let me explain it to people. So you see a red section ahead of you. That's not Google that it has a guy there saying, oh, there's a lot of traffic. No.
Yes,
Okay. Well, that red section could be you're going to a restaurant and they see that red section saying there's a lot of infected people or iffy people there. You should want to get in. You're like, no, maybe I'll go to the next one. I don't see any problem with that. I would love to have a phone that does that. I would love to have a phone that if I go to Starbucks and it's crowded, I'm in line or whatever, that tells me that place has a bunch of orange and red, very few greens. Okay, fine. I'll go to the next one. Perfect. You know, I mean, I don't see a problem with that. I mean,
you don't see a problem.
No, I mean, not because it's anonymous, okay? Not because it's basically saying this person, you're going into it's the same thing with the traffic. I don't know if Joe Smo is stuck in traffic. I just know that whatever cars are ahead are basically going at 2 miles per hour, bumper to bumper. And that's how I know it. Maybe Google knows that there's John, Jen, and Jimmy, but I don't care. I just know that there's traffic. I have the choice to choose a different route. And that's what Google says. Hey, there's traffic. You want to take this other route? Yeah, okay. Hey, there's sick people ahead of you. You want to go to this other restaurant? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I know the alternative is bad because it's been bad, and 28 million unemployed and counting, and the economy this and these stimulus checks, all that shit is not going to survive forever. So I think something is going to happen. It's a discussion needs to be had and how it's going to happen. And I think a lot of people are saying, you know what? I don't give a shit. Just let me go back to work. I'll make money. I'll pay my bills and all that stuff. If you need to trace, if there's a sick person in the supermarket or whatever. You know, I understand it's tricky, and I understand your situation, and that's what many people are thinking. But we need to start thinking about the alternative, which is not good.
But like I said, this is not binary. Okay, this is my problem. That every topic people make binary. That's why I say you need to break up the duopoly in politics, because everything is binary. You're either with us or against us. But that's not it. The answer, the question is not, or the solution is not we either take away civil liberties or we have another horrible pandemic going on and it lasts forever. Those are not the only two options. Okay, there's other options. And like I said, the biggest number one thing that we should take away from this is, hey, you know what? Competent leadership matters, okay? The people who are in charge and can make decisions that literally will save millions of lives or kill millions of people the other way if they make the wrong decisions, it really fucking matters.
Okay, so the competent leadership may say, you know what? The way we can prevent this is by tracking people right away.
But like I said, that's not, you're not understanding.
No, I am. I'm trying to, I mean, if I were, I don't know really if I were a leader, like I was going to ask you, in fact, that was the wrapping question that I had. If you were.
Like I said, if it were a 12, 18-month program, and then we said at the end of 18 months, we're done. We're just doing this so we can get the virus under control. And then after this, we're going to have a million other procedures in place so that this doesn't happen. But we also don't need to track people 24/7 and remove people's civil liberties. I'll be okay. But I have no trust and no faith that the government after 12 or 18 months is going to say, you know what? All this power that we just gained, we're going to give it up, because that's not what governments do.
No, I understand, but I don't want to make this too long. But so, in your opinion, like back in February, and I remember because you and I were looking at the map, and I basically were talking about the
Back
cases.
in February, when we had the map up and we had like 20 cases in the U.S., and I said we need to shut it down because even though there's 20 now,
But by then, let me ask you, by then, as of January 30th, the country was shut down from China.
yeah, China
which
didn't
is-
matter. It was already in Italy. It was already in Europe. It was already everywhere. We needed to shut it down. And that's what I was saying.
but then,
and we waited.
Well, it
another
was shut
month.
down from China right away in January. With the moment we heard that, with about 15 deaths, and then the other ones were in a cruise ship or something. And then after that, it was shut down from Europe, all the countries in
Way
Europe
later.
except for the UK, and then the
That was a
UK
month
followed
later.
through. Okay, but at what point? And then you need to shut down the country and make this decision when everybody was probably against you, saying, "Hey,
That's good. That's what good leaders do.
Okay, I understand.
They sacrifice their
Okay,
personal
well,
ego and
I
their
don't
personal pride.
defend Trump or anything, but when Trump shut down the country from China, which is our number one trade partner, if you want to call it, okay, a lot of businesses were affected because they was like this fast, and then he got a lot of bad rap for that stuff.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay,
That's
so
what good
so
leaders
then
do.
he did right in that case.
In that case.
Okay.
But then he fucked up everything else.
Okay, that's fine. I understand. So, all right. So let's wrap
It's
it
like
up.
saying, oh, I took a test and I got a 10%. Oh, so you got, out of 100 questions, you got 10 of them right. Well, you still fucking failed the test. Real bad.
I understand. Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
So let me ask you, moving forward, you are in charge. You're the U.S. president.
Oh, yes, that would be it. I would make America great again. I'll tell you what.
Well, we're still great, but let me ask you. Forget the past, okay? Now you inherit this country the way it is now, just like
Okay.
it happened after the terrorist attacks and all that stuff. You inherit the country.
Okay, what
and
do I do?
What will you do?
Okay.
What will you be on your agenda? But let's try to keep it short because
My
this
agenda.
is going to be
Okay.
long.
CDC, FDA, you're done. You're fired. Organization shut down. We're starting fresh. We need to burn the fucking buildings down and start anew.
But that's your number one agenda. That's not going to fix anything that we have now.
Oh, that's gonna fix a lot of things. Okay, I'm gonna fucking remove a lot of the regulations out of the FDA that basically are a big part of why this mess happened. Everyone at the CDC who currently is employed through this whole pandemic, fired. The Surgeon General who said masks don't work, you're fired. Everybody who was completely incompetent at the government level, you're all fucking fired. You're all getting replaced. That's step number one. And they should have just resigned voluntarily in the first place, but nobody would ever do that now. It used to be a thing where if you fucked up real bad, you resigned because you wanted to acknowledge it and say, hey, I made a mistake, but the sanctity of the institution is more important than my fucking ego.
Okay,
but
the time clock is here. and
that
it's-
doesn't
it's
exist
giving you
anymore.
30 seconds
Okay,
left,
so
Mr. President.
what's the answer? Everyone's fired. You're all fucking done. We're replacing you. So that's step number one. Step number two, we put it in place, exactly what you're saying, a health passport for 12 months. But because I'm the actual president and I can trust myself, I will actually remove it after 12 months in this utopia, okay? Because it would be a utopia if I was president. Okay?
All right, so the health passport is good. You just object to the forever.
Yeah, because I don't
situation.
trust them. It's like saying I don't know. It's like saying a crack addict saying, dude, I'm only going to smoke it once and I'm not going to smoke it again. Oh, sure, buddy. Okay.
Only
I
one
really
glass of
believe you.
wine per week.
Yeah, I'm only going to smoke crack once a week. I promise. Okay, sure.
Okay, so
no,
but as far as specific, will you open the country right away?
No.
Will you?
No. I would do a health passport. So yes, for 12, 18 months, depending. I would fund the shit out of our. I would basically replace the CDC and put in a new organization that basically because we used to have a much better CDC, and there's many different reasons. Not just Trump's fault, not even just Obama's fault. It's been happening for a long time. The degradation of the CDC, so to speak. So I would completely replace the CDC. I would maybe not completely replace the FDA, but massively amend the FDA so that we can do a lot of things like approve drugs much faster, put in, extraordinary circumstances powers that give the FDA much more leeway to do things and give entrepreneurs and biotech and all these companies much more leeway to do things much faster and iterate much faster. Remove a lot of the regulation. I mean, there's so many things I would do. But as far as specifically to the pandemic, that's what I would do. I would do the health passport for 12 to 18 months temporarily with a literal written promise. I'll get on TV to the country and say, if this is not removed in 18 months, you have full right to impeach me from power.
Do you remember the famous read my lips, no more taxes?
No, I don't remember that.
You're too young for that.
Not my age, but
that was Bush #1 saying that, and then they increased taxes. But
I would go on TV and say,
well, nobody's watching TV these
or
days.
live stream it on Twitter, whatever. Go on IG Live and tell the country.
Facebook Live. Go to your Instagram story. All right.
And basically say, if this is not removed in 18 months, mark my words, take this clip, blast it everywhere, impeach me, take me out of power, okay? That's my promise to you. This will be gone in 18 months. We are not going to track you forever.
All right. So yeah. So, I mean, it looks like you will do a few things that we've kind of agreed on.
Oh, and also... Wow, there's a lot of things I would do. Are we talking just pandemic related?
No. I don't want to get into more stuff. But for now, I just wanted to know if you have any different idea of, I mean, we're opening the country in phases, and there are certain phases that need to comply. And then my conclusion is that if everybody thinks that once the country reopens, or any country reopens, that it's going to be kind of back to the way it was before, like, okay, this is over, the storm is over, back to sunny days and back to normal, they are in for a reality check. So I know many industries are kind of in denial. They just say, oh, we're going to reopen and do this and that. And obviously we talk to a lot of businesses ourselves in different industries, and some of them actually get it and they realize they need to change. Some others are like totally clueless. I mean, I had conversations with marketing directors, vice presidents, they're marketing and this and that, and they actually think that, oh, when this is over, we're going to go back to normal, hopefully sooner rather than later, and all that stuff.
The other thing I would do, by the way,
they just don't understand that it's not going to be back to the way it was, especially in certain industries.
The other thing I would do, obviously, this is completely theoretical, but I would basically retract all of the Fed money that they did, basically the allocation, putting into junk bonds and muni bonds and all of that bullshit, okay? And I would just give people checks, and I would give people money, and I would give small businesses money. I wouldn't bail out any of the big fucking companies. If you bought back stock, and especially if you bought back stock using debt in the last 2 years,
that's basically,
I'm not bailing you out.
That's UBI.
No, it's not UBI. Well, you can call it whatever you want. Temporary UBI, not permanent.
Well, yeah,
sure.
but that's basically.
But I would give people, if we're gonna print trillions of dollars, why don't we at least give some of that to people?
No, I understand. I'm in favor of that. I mean, UBI really is not a bad idea with certain controls in certain situations.
And then
so
the
that's
longer
basically what you're
term
doing.
would be, I wouldn't say abolish the Fed. But I would say
go back to the gold standards.
I would say nah, we don't even need gold, Bitcoin. But that's a different topic for another day. I wouldn't abolish the Fed, but I think the Fed actually has some uses. But I would put extreme, strict guardrails on the Fed.
But the Fed is supposed to be independent. It's not supposed to be attached to the president.
That's beautiful until they're not, basically. Until Jay Powell just bends his back. Says
I heard that he's actually a
yes,
funny guy.
King Trump. And basically, I'll put extreme regulations on the Fed saying, hey, you know what the Fed can't do? You guys can't just add to the balance sheet to buy fucking junk bonds, okay? That's one thing I would do, for example.
All right, David. Well, thanks for your time.
Oh, my God, you're cutting me off.
Well, no, it's just that I think we need to be respectful of our listeners and viewers.
The biggest things... Health pass for 12 to 18 months. If it's not over by 18 months, impeach me. I will resign. I'll resign voluntarily. And if I don't, if I get corrupt with power, impeach me. I'm videotaping myself saying, impeach me, impeach me, impeach me if I don't remove this in 18 months.
All right.
Give money to people.
I'll contact Pelosi to make sure that she's taking note of that. So, all right. I was going to ask you have anything else, but you already kind of blasted your thoughts. So that's it. Thanks a lot.
Surgeon General thrown in jail. Not just fired, thrown in jail. Think the Surgeon General doesn't know that masks work? Why would every fucking doctor in the country know that masks work?
I think
He should be
they
thrown
were
in
trying
jail.
to make sure that there was no.
I don't give a fuck. If you're the Surgeon General and you lie about the functionality of one of the most basic fucking
yes,
protections.
but they didn't want people to
I
take
know
the
what they were
masks
doing.
away from the
Yeah,
health
and you know
professionals.
what you say? You know what you say? You say, hey guys, I know everyone's paranoid, but for the good of the country and for the good of society,
like people
give
care.
it to the people. Do not hoard masks and give it to the people who are risking their lives on a daily basis for us. Have a sense of duty. Have a sense of country. Have a sense of benefiting
you're giving
overall
people
society.
too much credit, I
No,
think.
I don't think I am. I mean,
Right.
look at what happens in wartime. People come together and basically say, this is wartime. Don't hoard bullets. Give them to the military, basically. Okay? So give the masks to the doctors and nurses who need them and who are risking their lives.
David for president.
Okay.
He's gonna be running in 20.
When I'm 70 years old, like these assholes,
2028.
maybe I'll decide
Are
to
you?
run.
Will you be old enough in 2028? No, probably not.
No comment.
That you choose that role too.
I don't reveal my age. Just like old people don't reveal their age, I don't reveal mine.
Oh, I don't care about my age. You hear it? Oh, there's a glitch here. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next week with another interesting topic. Hopefully,
We'll be loaded again next week.
yes, we'll be definitely going to be loaded. I told you that from the beginning. So we'll be back next week, and hopefully there'll be a lot of progress between now and then as far as what we know that is going to happen. Maybe the health passport is already in place. I'm going to start taking my pictures for the passport and my phone app and everything else. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Follow us on mgragc.com. Just find us anywhere. And especially if you like this podcast, send us a like on Apple Podcast or go to YouTube. Just a thumbs up, whatever. Just help us out because we do it just for fun and for entertaining purposes. And that's it. Bye, everybody. Thank you.